Okay, we're good to go. So today we're going to talk about enumerables. So we talked about .each on Wednesday. I don't know, it feels like years ago, but we talked about .each. So we're going to build on that functionality now. So .each is one of our enumerables. So we're going to talk more about that today and learn how to use and recreate the functionality of some other very common enumerables: map, find all, and find. And we're going to do it with each and then show you how these other enumerables work. So we want to understand when to use these other enumerables: map, find all, and find. And then we want to learn how to explore other enumerables using our resources, our Ruby documentation. So we'll go through that today. For a warm up, this is what I would like you to do. So take about 2 minutes or so to go ahead and look at the code that's on the screen, this def double. Okay, and I want you to kind of walk through in your head, like, what is each line of code doing, and what will be the return value on line 15 of when I call this method. What will be the return value? So take about 2 minutes to work through this on your own as warm up. And definitely I would love for you to be either writing in a journal or writing this in a text editor, but we want to get your mind flexing and working.
Isn't line 15 supposed to say doubles?
No, this is exactly what it should say.
Oh, I see. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Also, if you don't like something about this code, feel free to jot down what you would do differently. You take about 10 more seconds to finish up any thoughts you have, any assumptions. All right, and I would love to have someone come off mute and kind of walk me through, like, what is this code doing and what is going to be the return value when we run this. So right in the middle of my screen is Logan. So Logan, if you want to come off mute and kind of just walk us through what this method is doing, I would appreciate that.
All right, so you've got an array of numbers, and then you're setting an accumulator array. And then for each of the numbers, you're gonna double them and put them in the doubles accumulator array.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it should just print the doubles array, since the last line is doubles shovel number times 2.
Okay, good guess. So let's see. So everyone, part of that warm up was for you to make an assumption about what this will return. So let's go ahead and run this. Run this file, and it should print out our return value of this method. So let's see if you're right. Oh, sorry. I've got some uncommented code that needs to be commented. So give me just a second here. All right, let's try that one more time. All right. So we've got this is our return value from this method. So when we call this method, we're getting back our original array. Okay, so why? There's actually a couple things going on here. Why is that happening? So Brett, do you want to come off mute and talk about like why are we getting back this, our original array of numbers back when we call this method?
Because whenever you use each, it prints out the original array.
Yes.
So you'd have to have it print. I forgot what it was, where you have to have it print here.
That's okay. So you're very
just when you use each, it's not the original.
right. When we use each, so remember, in general, the return value of a Ruby method is the last code or last piece of block evaluated. So this is even though it spans 3 lines, this is the last block of code evaluated. So whatever this method returns will be the return value of the entire method. Okay, so .each, we know the return value is the original array. So what do I need to do? Let's see, Christopher, if you want to come off mute, what would I need to do to this method so that it returns my doubles?
You'd want to put the print doubles within the method if you were going to call double.
Okay, but I want to just call the method and have the method return an array that says 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Would you print doubles instead of double? Or you want to call the method as itself is what you're saying?
Still want to call the method.
I'm not entirely sure.
That's okay. Let's phone a friend. Theron, what do you think?
I'm sorry, repeat it one more time, Kat.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Let me do. So I want to still call this method, but I want it to return my array of my doubled numbers, because right now it's .each is the last line of code evaluated. So this method is returning what .each returns, which is our original array. And I want it to return my array of doubled numbers. So how do I accomplish that?
Can't you just take that P double and make it doubles, right? And then move it up to basically line like 12 and a half in the method.
Okay, so you're on the right track. Okay, I still want to just call the method, right? Because when I call the method, what we'll print out is the return value of the method. So you're right on track here with that. Something needs to go here, right? So if I want the last line of code evaluated to be this variable, my accumulator array, then I need to put it as the last line of code in my method. So now just by adding this here, now my method will return the doubles array. So let's test that real quick. And it does, so we're good right here. I've got some other uncommented out code that is causing some other errors, but now we see that the method, the return value of the method, is that doubled array. Okay, questions about this?
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
I would have thought that in your block, you're doubling each number and shoveling it into doubles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just answered my own question. Never mind. I was like,
Sure.
why doesn't it include the original number and the double number? But it's because it's a different array. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
There you go. No, you're good. Perfect. Someone else was thinking that too, so I'm glad you mentioned it. So yeah, so when we use .each inside of a method, we really need to pay attention to the return value of our .each. And when we're wanting to return like a transformed value, a subset, or a different value, maybe like a sum of some array. I said the same, okay, anyways. When you say the same word a couple times, it just sounds weird. Anyways, so in the method, we want to make sure that when we're using .each, that we're actually returning what we're wanting to return and not the return value of .each. So that's something we're going to work with today, is these return values. So we do iteration a lot in code. As you can imagine, we use collections often and arrays very often. And so doing something like this where we're doubling a number or if we were going to look through an array and take a subset of information, we do it so often that Ruby has given us tools to make this easier for us called enumerables. And enumerables is going to cut down on some of this work that we're doing when using .each. So that's what we're going to explore today. So before we dive into some of those other enumerables, what I want you to have is either in a journal or notebook or on a text editor, some kind of document. We're going to keep like a chart almost. We're going to talk about, for every enumerable we talk about, the syntax, the return value, and the best use case. So like, when would we use this enumerable? Okay. And anytime you learn a new enumerable, like as you're working on your project throughout your Ruby career, you're going to want to make note of these three things regarding the enumerables. Okay, so if we do this for .each, do our little 3-point chart here, we know for syntax, this is what our code block looks like. Right, we have our original array, we call our .each method, we create a code block with the keywords do and end. We have our block variable that we're going to name appropriately to the information it's holding. And then the code goes inside of that code block. We're going to do something there. Okay. Now everyone remember the return value of .each? You're all saying it to yourself right now, right? The original collection. Thanks, Hash. I saw you do it. All right. So .each, it's the original collection is the return value. Okay. And when do we use .each? This is what we explored last week. So anytime we want to transform an array, if we want a subset of an array, we want to create something new. We'll come back to this too, but because we have other enumerables that will do these things for us, a lot of times we use .each when all we want is some kind of side effect. Like in here, if we were just going to like maybe puts the number, we would use .each because we're not actually collecting anything in this code block. We're not collecting anything or changing anything. We're just printing something. So we're just wanting some kind of side effect. The other time we would use .each is when we can't find another enumerable to do our task with. Okay, so if you're ever also like coding and you're really not sure what enumerable to use, you could start with .each and then kind of work through what you're doing, and then maybe one of the other enumerables will pop out to you. Okay, awesome. Questions yet? I'm going to make this a little bigger. This is, yes.
Could you bring back what was on screen before?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a double pane here. So there we go. Yeah, and then can you see my whole screen? Is any of the text cut off for you? Okay, thank you, Luke. I got a thumbs up. So I'm going to keep going, but please let me know if there's, you know, sometimes the stuff goes off the screen. So the first enumerable we're going to explore is one called map. So when we think about this example here, we want to, what we're doing ultimately is taking this numbers array and transforming it according to the code here that's inside of our code block. Okay, the key word I want you to hear right now is transform. Right, so when we have an array and we want to transform it in a particular way, and every element's going to follow the same transformation rule, typically we use a enumerable called map. Oops, why is that there? Okay, so we're going to rewrite this now using map. Let me condense that. Okay, so we want to write our method double, but instead of using .each, we're going to use map. So what does this look like? So syntax-wise, it's very, very similar to .each. And you can be writing notes, filling these in as I talk, and then we will fill them in together. But I can't talk and type at the same time necessarily. So we're in our double method. We want to now double this. So syntax, we're still going to call our array. We're going to call .map on that array. we're still going to have a do end block to indicate this is the code that needs to run for every single element. We still want a block variable that reflects what each element is. So what is the data that this block variable is holding? Well, here it's a number. Okay. And now what map does is it transforms every element that comes through. So for for element 1, we just want to double it again. So number times 2. So what map will do is take this code and create a new array that is transformed according to our code block. Okay. So now let's call double here. P double. Actually, before I do that, before I run that, let's fill these out. So syntax, I'm going to do a little copy pasting here just because the syntax will be a little repetitive right now. So same syntax as our dot each. Okay. If someone wants to pop off mute, what is the return value of map?
Whatever you have done in the do block.
Yeah, so pretty much a new array or a new collection that is transformed according to whatever's in the do block or the code block. So I'm going to put the transformed array. Transformed array. I did spell that right. Okay, or array, I'll do collection. We're focusing on arrays right today for this lesson, but you can use enumerables on any Ruby collection, so arrays or hashes. Okay, and then third, does anyone want to come off mute and share what we should put for number 3? When would we use map?
When we want back a transformed array with every element changed in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. So Danny, when we're using map, are we expecting back the same number of elements or a different number of elements?
It will be the same number of elements.
Yes, so it will always be the same number of elements because we're literally just taking each element, changing it, and then rewriting it to a new array. When we want to change. And you can feel free to put these in your own words in your notes. Form every element. Okay. All right, so let's run this. First, here's this same method we wrote above with each. Now we rewrote it with map. What is going to be my return value from this method? Everyone have a guess in their head? All right, we have our transformed array. Were you right? You don't have to tell me, it's okay. But yeah, let me finish this one thought, Hash, and then I'll have you ask your question. So again, because this block is the last piece of code evaluated within our method, whatever the return value of this map is going to be the return value of the method itself. So because map returns our transformed array, that's what our method returns. So if you see, comparing it to with dot each, we've cut down on like 2 lines of code. Hash, go right ahead.
So I'm just a little confused, I guess, with the term. So between transforming an array, like to me, when I think of transform, I'm thinking you're taking the numbers array, you're changing the values inside of it. And now if you were hypothetically to call on numbers after that block variable, that it would be the new values. Is that correct? Or you said that it's storing it into another array that doesn't have a variable name attached to it?
That is a wonderful question, Hash. So let's explore that. So I put a pry in here after this map has ran. And actually what I'm going to do is store this into a variable just so we have access to it. So I'm going to do like mapped array, mapped numbers. Okay, so let's run that method again. Okay, so now we're in our pry. Can you see the bottom of my screen okay? Sometimes it gets cut off. Okay, great. So now, so what Hash is asking is, he's saying, okay, this is transforming the array, so numbers should be changed now. It is not. Okay, so dot map does not manipulate our original array. That stays intact, which is great. We might need that array for something else in the future. Okay, and then if we looked at our mapped numbers array now, this should be storing whatever the return value of dot map is, which we know from our chart should be the transformed array. Okay, excellent question.
Will a
Awesome.
bang make it destructive?
Yes. So be careful. He's saying, will a bang make it destructive? Yes, it will. So usually we don't want to destroy our original information. We might need that for other processes to refer back to. So usually you want to stay away from those banged methods because they are destructive. Okay. Cool. All right. How are we feeling? We feeling good about maps so far?
Kat, I do
All
have
right.
a question as well.
Yeah.
So if you were to put the pry underneath the second end and print out numbers, would it print out the original array as well? Or
You
would
mean
you?
if I
Yeah.
had my pry right here?
Yeah.
Good question. I like that question. What do you all think? Make a guess in your head right now. If I'm gonna do my pry. Will it hit this pry? Okay, hit my pry. Right. So I am right here on line 32. If I type numbers, what will happen? Make a guess in your head. Okay, let's see. Undefined local variable or method numbers, right? Because think about scope. This variable is defined inside the method. So it has the method scope. So when I come outside of that method, I no longer have access to these variables that I defined. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, absolutely. Cool. All right,
Can I
so
ask
that's
one quick
map.
one, Kat?
Yes, absolutely, Tyler.
If in that first example with dot each, if we did a similar thing where we did doubles equals numbers dot each, would that do the trick as well?
Oh, like if we put doubles right here?
Yeah.
That is a really good question also. So let's play with it, right? Anytime I have a question about my code, I try it. I open up a pry and try it. So now if we do put a pry right here, this is the what you're saying, Tyler?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so let's go in there. So we run that. So my pry, I'm right here. So everyone make a guess in your head right now. When I type doubles, what will that return? Okay. Look what it's storing. It's storing this, which means whatever the value, the return value of dot each returns will be stored in that variable, which is the original array. Right? So we can't, when we set dot each equal to a variable, it's kind of pointless because it's, remember, dot each returns our original array. So usually there's no point in doing this other than this demonstration example. Make sense? Cool. Awesome. All right, great question. So that's dot map. Now we're going to do a couple of these. We're going to do map, find, and find all. We're going to do these together. And then afterwards, I will put you into breakout rooms so you can actually practice and try with groups. But right now, I'm going to have you try on your own. So I want you to look at this code right here. Okay, standardized names. Take about 3 minutes or so to look through this and see how would you rewrite this using dot map. Okay, so either put it in a text editor or literally just jot it down in a notebook. And then after the 3 minutes, I'll call on one of you to help me write it. You can give me like a thumbs up when you feel like you've got it. Okay, take about another 30 seconds to get this method transformed. Okay, great. Let's come back together. Drew, you're on my screen. Would you like to help me write this method using map?
Sorry. Yep. I misunderstood the directions, so I'm just going to wing this. Here we go.
Okay.
Define. Oh, you already did that part. So you got the names. Yeah. So we'll just come down here. We need to make our accumulator.
Okay.
Wait, no, we don't, because .map is going to change it and make it that way. So.
Awesome.
Yes. Names. .map. Do. Pipes. Name.
Love it.
And then we will do name.capitalize. And that should be good. Maybe.
Cool. I don't know. Let's try it. So let's, everyone, what do you think? Do you think this looks good? Is this what you had? Will this successfully do what we did with .each? And I guess I'm asking you to think about that in your head for a second, and then I will run this and we will see what we get. Awesome. I do have two methods called the same thing, but Ruby runs top to bottom, so we'll run the second one, but let's just comment that out so we can just be sure that we are seeing what we intended to see. Awesome. So we've got our array now of transformed names that are capitalized. Okay, so we didn't need an accumulator. Drew, thank you for saying that and then catching yourself, because .map does that action of transforming the array for us. Pretty cool. Thank you, Ruby. Okay, what questions do you have about this method, about .map?
I thought that you said that .map does change it, but it doesn't, like if you call the method, it still only returns the original values. Is that not what was said? Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, so let me clarify. There's a couple statements in there, so let me clarify what's going on here. So .map does not alter the original array, but the return value of .map is the transformed array according to whatever we put in here. So because .map will return that transformed array, and because this code block is the last piece of code evaluated in this method, then when we call the method, the return value of the method will be whatever the return value of this statement is, which is the transformed array.
Okay, I get it. So, but if you were to call just like underneath the end of the code block, if you were to call names or print names, it would print the uncapitalized version, right?
Yeah, let's run that. So now I put names back down here, right? So technically the last line of code evaluated now in this method is this variable, we're calling that. So we should expect that that becomes the return value. Yep, and it does, and they are not transformed.
I get it.
Awesome. Cool. Angela, did you have something as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the way we built it here, our map method, like the return value isn't being stored anywhere. So we could store it in a variable and then access it also.
You sure could. So you could do like big names, right? Like this.
Yeah.
And then you're saying like this, return it.
Yeah, in case you wanted to use it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So the only reason we would do this is now if this method needed to do something else with these big names, like now you wanted to do a dot each and I don't know, do something else to them, right? So that's the only reason you would need to store this in a variable. Otherwise, we're just going to work off the knowledge we have that the last piece of code evaluated in the method is the return value of the method. So we don't need to take up any memory by storing this in a variable if this is all we're intending to return from that method. Cool. Awesome. All right, so I know you like just learned .map, but fits to 5, how are you feeling about .map right now? 0 is, I know you've been talking, but nothing's coming through. And 5 is you feel pretty good. Okay, a variety. Awesome, cool. You will get some more practice with this. So you're practicing on your own. We're gonna get some group practice. But I wanna go through map, find, and find all first, and then you're gonna practice all of them with a group, okay? All right, cool. So that was map. So now let's talk about .find. So remember we did something like this before with .each, where we only wanted to return the first number that matched a condition, right? So this is kind of like that subset example, except we're only looking for one thing. So here I have an array of numbers and I only want the first number that is even. So the first number that matches this condition. Okay, so that using .each would accomplish this, because remember we still need to look at every single element, which is why we're going to use our iterator or enumerator. So we're looking at 1, does it match the condition? It does not. And then the second element does match the condition, so it will hit this return statement, which will return that number. Okay, questions about this?
Real quick, Kat, do we need the return there? Because I noticed before, it seems like you don't need to actually type return.
Yeah, so we do have implicit return in Ruby. The thing is, when we look at this method, wait, do I want to comment this out? When we look, what is going to be, let's take return out. Then what is the return value of this method? Oh gosh. Fine, first even. Okay, so everyone ready to guess again? I really like making you make a guess in your head and then test it. Okay, so right now with this, I took that return statement out. What will be the return value of this method? Make a guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why?
.each returns the original array.
Ooh, yeah, perfect. Because this is the last block of code evaluated. And so whatever this block returns will be the return value of the entire method. And .each always returns the original array. Now, when we put this like keyword return statement inside of an enumerable, it kind of short circuits our enumerable, and we'll just return what we explicitly told it to return. So in this case, when we have that return keyword inside the enumerable, it will just return the single thing we told it to return. So we're kind of short circuiting the enumerable. My piece of advice to you is if you ever find yourself using a return keyword inside of an enumerable, chances are there's a better enumerable you could be using. And we're gonna learn what that is right now. Okay. Any questions about this if statement? I'm not sure if we've seen this before.
I don't understand why it didn't loop. Why does it just return 2? Because you said for each number do this.
Right. So remember that return keyword inside of here, because how many things can Ruby return from a method? Anyone know the answer? Hold up a number of fingers. How many things can Ruby return from a method? Yeah, one single thing. Okay, so when we have this return keyword in here, then Ruby's going to say, oh, this is the one thing you wanted me to return from this method. Here it is. So it's not even going to bother going through the rest of the elements in our collection when we've got that return, if it hits that return keyword. So that's why I say it short circuits the dot each. It says like, I know you want to continue going on and iterating, but please don't just stop, return this number. Okay. And that's kind of why I don't like return keywords inside of an enumerable, because you get behavior that's different from what .each is trying to do. Hold on. Okay, so that, I don't know if you could hear that. That was my timer to take a break. So let's do this. Let's pause right here, since we just had that little discussion about this return keyword. We'll take 5 minutes and then we'll come back and we will rewrite this using the .find enumerable. Okay, so at 1:48, we will return and resume. Okay. Why did you think your mouse was broken, John? Because I'm screen sharing. Okay, perfect. So we're talking about .find here. So first we showed the example of using .each to pull either a subset or a very specific element out of an array. So we are still iterating through it, because what if this 2 wasn't here? Right, then we'd still need to iterate through the 1, through the 3 until we found the 4. And then this if statement with the return keyword would have short-circuited .each and return just the number for us. Okay, so let's rewrite this together using .find. So let's try it this way this time. Let's fill out our little form for .find, and then we'll go through using it to accomplish this task. So the first thing is the syntax. This is going to come as a shocker to you, but the syntax looks very much the same. So we have our original collection. We call, whoa, not caps. Don't do caps. We call .find. So .find is another one of our enumerables that we will be using. Has a do end code block, a block variable, same as always, and then the code goes in here. The code of the thing we're looking for. Also, we say the condition goes inside of here. Okay, so the return value of .find is here I will use capitalize or caps, the first element that makes the condition in our code block evaluate to true. I'm going to put truthy for now. Okay, so the first element that makes the condition in our code block evaluate to true. So here's where .find's a little bit different. It's not returning an array necessarily. It's going to return whatever the element is. Okay, so if we have an array of numbers, .find will return a number. If we have an array of objects, like cat objects, I saw not my name cat, I have a cat, I saw. So if we have a class of kitty cats, and we have an array holding a bunch of these kitty cat objects, then .find would return a single kitty cat object. Okay. All right. And then, so when would we want to use find? Well, when we want to return the first element that matches the condition. Okay, for example, in this dot each, we wanted to find the first number that is even. So that's a good indicator we should use dot find. Okay, so let's rewrite this. Find the first even. Okay, we have our array. I'll comment this out. Okay, so we have our array. So following the syntax for dot find, we're going to call our collection, our array. We're going to call dot find on it. We're going to do a same do end block. Each element of our numbers array still represents a number. So we will use the word variable number for our code block, our block variable. Now in here goes a condition, not an if statement, but just a condition in here that will evaluate to either true or false. So all we have to do in here is number dot even, right? Because what will this expression evaluate to?
So true or false?
Yeah, a Boolean, right?
Boolean.
A true or false. Was someone else going to say something?
I just said something.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And so if this evaluates to false, because the number is a 1, then dot find will continue iterating through the collection. When it gets to 2, it's going to say, is this number even? This will evaluate to true. So dot find will stop and return that element. Okay, this is a little bit different. So let's run this. Find me first even. Okay, so what's going to be the return value when I call this method? Yeah.
Kat, for some reason I got kicked out and then I can't see anything. I just see black screen, even though it says you are sharing something.
Can
you, should I try to like get completely out and come back in?
I don't know.
Now I can see. Now I can see.
Oh, okay, cool. Maybe it just needed to load or something. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to run this file. Go ahead and make an assumption. What is going to be the return value now of this method? 2. Yay, that's what we wanted. I can't highlight very well on my terminal. So 2. Okay. Questions about dot find?
Can we also use, with dot find, can we store the answer or the return value in a variable to use later?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do that for anything, any enumerable. You just want to make sure you put it here. So we could do like first even equals here. And if we put our pry here, we will be able to view that. So if we run that, we're inside of our method now in this pry. So let's check. Numbers is still maintained. Okay, our original array is not changed. And then our variable first even holds that number 2. Okay, yeah, and then if we wanted to do something else to that, we could, since we stored it in the variable. Great. Other questions about dot find? So my indicator for you is if you have just written a statement with dot each, and you're using some kind of flow control inside of that enumerable, like if this happens, then this, if that happens, then this, then I really want you to look at, could I be using dot find to do this more efficiently? Because remember, with dot find, it is looking for this block to evaluate to true or false. So it's kind of like the condition, that flow control is built in for us. Okay, so I want you to practice here. So I've got another example. And what I want you to do here. Wait, no, that's not the one. Oh, I didn't do an example. Hold on, let me get an example for you to do. Okay, well, we can use this one. For the find sisters, I want you to find, if this is your array, write the code that would go in here to find the first sister whose name is 4 characters or less. These are not actually my sisters.
Hey, Kat, I was writing when you were giving the conditions. What's the condition again?
Oh yeah, I apologize. So find the, actually I had it written here, but for the wrong one. Find the first sister whose name is less than, oh, what did I say, friends?
4.
Or
You said less than, but
Did I say less than or more?
you said 4 or less.
Okay, so is less than or equal to 4 characters in length. Okay, so I should have it written here now. So find the first sister's name who has 4 characters or less. Oh, that was annoying. Sorry. Okay.
birds.
The birds is for the howler for our palm break. So that was that was just for the 2-minute timer. Enrique, do you want to come off mute and help me write the code that would go in here so that I can find the first sister's name whose name is less than or equal to 4 characters in length?
Sure thing, Pat. So first you want to call the arrays. So you're going to do sisters.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do dot find do, and our bracket, our block variable will be sister.
Love it.
We want to end it so we don't cry later. And then we want to do sister dot length. And then we want the alligator mouth to be eating the length for less than equal. And then the integer 4. And that should give us the first sister whose name is less than or equal to 4.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the alligator mouse should be reversed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this, remember, is the right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. I always
It's all
just run
good.
it and be like, wait, that's not what I needed.
Yeah. So this, like, whatever it's eating should be larger, and we want
Right.
the. Yeah. No, you're good. But I like how you described it as the alligator should be eating the length. That is good. I like that. Perfect. Cool. All right. So what do y'all think? Does this look good to you? Will this work? Will this give us the first sister? I see some head nods. But what if we have no idea? Well, then we could just run the code and see what we get. So Ruby Playground, and we got Rose. And that is correct. We have Rose first, right? So Enrique, why did you not put an if statement inside of here? Like, why didn't you put if sister dot length sister? How come you didn't write it like this?
That's a great question, Kat. I'm pretty sure I've written it like that before. I think after addressing a lot of my trust issues with enumerables, I finally got comfortable with the fact that, like, if I just put what I want the .find to look for, I don't have to put an if statement or ask for a return on anything, because it will automatically give me that.
Yeah, exactly. So remember how .find is working. Yes, you can trust your enumerable. So .find is looking for this, and it's looking, does this code block evaluate to true or false? So it's already looking at that for us. So we don't need to add in our if statement. Okay, so whatever that evaluates to, the first thing that makes this condition true, truthy technically, will be what is returned. Okay. Any questions on .find? Cool. Okay. Awesome. I'm sure questions will come up when we start practicing. So the last one we're going to talk about for now is find all. Here's the cool thing about Ruby is, like, a lot of times the name of the method pretty much tells you exactly what. Oh, can you still hear me?
There, Kat.
Yeah, my phone started ringing and it overtook my my headphones. Can you hear me okay right now? Okay, great. So if .find returns the first thing that matches a condition, what do you think find all will return?
All of them.
Yeah, thank you, Hope. All of them, yes. So find all will return, oh, whoops, I'm getting out of order here, I apologize. So we'll just skip down to the return, which is your number 2. So it will actually return an array containing all the elements that make the condition in the code block truthy. Okay, so this time we are returning an array again. And the array will be populated with all the elements that made the condition true. So this is like if we were using .each to collect a subset of data from an original array, right? So here we have an array again of numbers, and this time we want to return all the numbers that are odd. So with using .each, we take a look. If the number is odd, then go ahead and put it in our accumulator, and then return back the accumulator when you're all done iterating through that. So it will still return an array. Okay, let's fill out the rest of this chart for find all, and then we will rewrite this together using find all. So again, shocker, our syntax looks very, very similar. We're just going to change up the method we're calling. So we have our original collection. We're going to call find all on that collection. We have our do end block, the block variable, and the code goes here. Maybe here I'll put the condition goes here. And I'll do that for find also. So instead of code goes here, I'm changing that to the condition goes here. Okay. And so when would we want to use find all? Well, when we want to find all the matches for our given condition. Okay. Cool.
Hey, Kat.
Yeah.
Is there any practical difference between select and find all?
No, not with the arrays. So yeah, good. I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. I meant to point that out. So in Ruby, there are quite a few methods that are pretty much synonymous. Okay, so for the purpose of our discussion today, find all and select work exactly the same. So you could either call .find all or you can call .select. They work exactly the same. Okay, there are some small minute differences, but we'll discuss those another day. or you can discuss that or research that on your own by looking at documentation, okay? But for today, they work exactly the same. All right, so let's rewrite all the odds using find all. For me, sometimes I like the find all because in my head, then it's very descriptive about what I'm doing. I'm trying to find all the things that match my condition, okay? But you will see dot select often too. So let's go ahead and rewrite this, all the odds. Okay, we've got our numbers array that we want. And now using our syntax that we are becoming quite familiar with, we have our array, we're gonna do find all. Same thing, we have our do end block. Each element represents a single number. Okay, and now in here, again, find all will look at our code block and evaluate it to truthy or falsy for us. So we don't need to add in our flow control, our if statements. So we can, what are we looking for? Odds. So we just do number dot odd. It will look if this evaluates to either true or false to determine if it will select that element and put it into the new array for us. Okay. I want to do this like we've kind of been doing since it comes up. So we can store this in a variable called odds. And if we put our pry in here, let's invoke our method. Okay, and let's run it and let's see what everything comes out to be. So now the value of this odds variable when we run this right now should be the return value of the entire method, right? Because whatever this block evaluates to is just going to be stored in odds. And since that's the last thing of code evaluated in our method, that will be the return value of the method. Great, so we're there. Numbers should be maintained. We haven't been manipulating the original array at all. And then odds should be, remember, an array containing all of the odd elements or odd numbers. Cool, and it is. Questions? No questions? Feeling good?
Can you scroll back up a little bit just to each method so I can see that again, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So again, if you're doing something with .each and you're using an if statement, then now you have two more enumerables that you could potentially use instead of writing an if statement inside of a .each enumerable. We have our find and our find all. So it just depends on if you're wanting to return the first thing that matches or all the things that match. Okay. Okay, let's one more time have you practice this on your own. So this one, you're going to finish off this method, and I want you to return all the numbers that are divisible by 3 using find all or select. They're synonymous. So take 2 minutes to get that one working. About 10 more seconds to finish up your code. Ah, okay, I gotta find a different timer. That's too jarring. Can you hear the beeping when it goes off? Okay, sorry. You're like, yes. Okay, so I would let Leah, if you want to come off mute, if you want to come off mute and help me write the code to accomplish this, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Sorry, I made it too small. So do numbers dot find all, and then do block variable of number.
Awesome.
And then I did number modulo 3 is equal to 0 as the conditional.
Like this?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So if a number is divisible by 3, then its remainder should be 0. So this is how we test if a number is divisible by a number. Okay. And the find all should return all the numbers that do this. So let's go ahead and test this if I can type today. Okay. And then everyone in your head, go ahead and just take a guess if this looks good. Cool. We see some nodding heads. So, yep. And we have 3, 6, 9. And that looks like that is all we should have. Cool. So we just have a condition in here, right? This double equals, remember, is our comparison operator. So whenever we use that comparison operator, the statement, the expression will evaluate to either true or false. Okay. And that is exactly what find all is relying on to know whether it should take that element and put it into our new array for us. Okay. Questions about find all before we do some breakout rooms? Okay, so I'm going to put you into breakout rooms of about 3 to 4 people. I would like one person to take over the screen and do the screen sharing, just a document. And I think it's much easier to talk about code when everyone can see the code in question. So one person will be the driver, and then everyone will discuss the prompts that I am putting into your Slack channel right now. Okay, and oh, my rooms got messed up. And then we'll spend about, let's say about 10 minutes on these, and then we'll come back together and discuss and talk about some other enumerables. Any questions about what you are doing right now? Okay. All right, have fun. Recording, perfect. Okay, so what questions came up for your groups with these 3 tasks? No questions came up? I don't believe it. All right, so what I'd love to do then is have one person, I'm just gonna call on a person, and you could just share with me the solution your group did. And we'll do this rather quickly so we can move on to the next thing since we're almost done. Crazy how fast time goes.
We had a question, or we had some unexpected behavior.
Ooh, I like
we were
that.
running. Yeah.
Let's do it.
So we put like we were doing the map one, which is I think the second one.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. This one first.
And so do you want me to do it or?
Yeah, might as well. And then we'll talk about the behavior you saw.
Okay, so we went names. So we're trying to return an array with the character count. So we did names dot map do, and then in pipes name.
Awesome.
And then went name dot length. Yeah, and then we put in a p in front of our map, yeah, to get that
Here.
to print, we thought it would print the return, but it printed something else.
Yeah, let's look at that. So yeah, so so what P does, it's like an inspect tool. So when we're just like P like puts in a string or a number, it's fine, or an integer. But when we do it with other things, it gives us more information about what it is we're looking at. So I think a better way to view this would be to do like a if we did like character count equals, and then because that will then store the return value for you, and then we can look at that. Okay, and so this should give us what you expect. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So putting it there, it gives us more information about the code that follows that P command. Okay, so because this is an enumerator, that's what you saw here with this object. It was an enumerator object. Ooh, actually, that's interesting. I don't know that I want to go too far into that right now. It actually returns. Yeah, but I like that you saw that and experienced that. But yeah, you'll want to store it in a variable and then return that variable.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Yeah, awesome though. But this is perfect for completing that task. And then, so thank you, Angela. And then if, Nell, do you want to help me with this first one? We want to find all the, sorry, can't talk. The first word or first element that starts with the letter Q. Did your group have a solution for this one? I think you're on mute now.
There we go. Okay, so we defined our method, find words that start with Q.
Okay, perfect. Here, find words starting with Q.
We've got our array.
Okay, yep, I'll just move that in here.
Now words.find do.
Perfect.
Block variable word.
Love it.
Word dot start with question mark. Q as a string.
Yeah.
And we didn't use parentheses for an argument. We just did a space in the string.
Yep, totally fine. So parentheses in Ruby are optional, right? So you either could or could not put them here. For most things, I prefer parentheses. That makes it very clear. But when it has the question mark, I think actually sometimes the parentheses can become like it's a character overload. So I like this. Yeah, but personal preference. Perfect. So let's go ahead and run it and see what we get. So if we do puts out the return value from this method, we'll see what we get. Cool, and we got quill. So perfect. So it is helpful to remember that, and probably you would be more familiar with this start with, not you, Nell, I'm talking you collective, the cohort. Thank you so much, Nell, for sharing that solution. But when you do your Ruby exercises, right, it takes you through a lot of the strings, a lot of arrays, and helps you become familiar with more of these methods that are very helpful for situations like this. You could also, because you're looking at that start with, you could have looked at the word, like looked at the first letter via the index and made sure it was equal to Q. Okay, that is something you could have done in here. But Ruby gives us these great methods that are very descriptive and kind of read like English, like we're talking. So I really like that one. Awesome, perfect. And then Luke, were you in a different group than Angela and Nell?
Yes, I was.
Cool. Would you like to help me with the last one, where we want to return an array of all the words that contain the letter E?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful.
So we're going to start with the, of course, def. It's funny. It's so much easier when you're in a crew.
I know,
so def, we'll say all E's, all underscore E.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
In there, we're going to do, yep, move those guys in there. So we said, yeah, maybe words with ease, words underscore ease.
Okay.
Okay. We had this. Sorry. Dot. Or no. We'll start this off a different way. Entirely. Yeah. Get rid of that. Words dot find underscore all.
Awesome.
Do. And then we'll do the pipes and then an E.
An E?
We just put an E. Yeah.
Okay.
Or is that going to do something crazy?
Well, it's not, because it really doesn't matter what we put here. But what we want this, because this is a common thing, is that people put in the pipes what they're looking for. But what it's holding, right? Because through our first iteration, what does E equal?
For our first iteration?
Yep, because remember, find all will iterate through this array. So what does E equal on the first time through, the first iteration?
Nothing.
Almost. Okay. It actually will equal 4, because 4 is that first element. So what our enumerators do, right, is they take whatever element is first in our collection, and they set the block variable equal to that. So E actually is equal to 4 for our first iteration. And then we're going to do some kind of condition, right? We would do like, what did you do for this one?
So I didn't actually take the notes on this one. I wasn't driving, but we could do it here right now, I suppose. So we would have to. What did I Google for this?
You could
phone definitely.
Luke.
What's that?
You could phone a friend if you want.
Sounds good. Danny, what do we do here?
Well, the way that we did this when we were running through it is we actually did words.findAll do word, put word.
Yes. Right. And
because what we want to do is we want to iterate through each of those words to see if it has some sort of something. And in this case, we're looking for if the words include.
That's right. Include question mark E.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Perfect. Right. So we're looking at the word, and the block variable is storing whichever element we're on. And we're saying, okay, for this given word, does it include E?
Yeah.
Perfect. So now this will totally work if we put this here.
Yeah.
Totally
It just be
works,
confusing.
right? Exactly, right? We're thinking about our future self. We're thinking about future developers, and just someone else reading our code, right? So, and Luke, I'm talking to kind of everyone here. I know you're the one off mute. Feels like I'm talking directly to you, but I'm talking to everybody. So thank you for sharing that solution, Luke. But we want to make sure our block variable is named whatever information it's holding. So whatever each element represents, in this case, it's a word, that's what we want to name our block variable. Okay, this will become more helpful too when you have arrays that are holding objects like kitty cat objects or puppy dog objects, right? Because then this becomes much more descriptive of the object that the block variable is holding at that given time. Okay, yep, this looks good. So it'll find all. It should. I mean, let's be consistent here and actually do this. All E's. That's cool. And we have all the words that have E's in them. So pizza is not here, and 4 is not here. Perfect. Okay, any other questions about find all, or map? No pizza. Sorry, John. Okay, so that is not all the enumerables that Ruby has. So those are some very common enumerables and the ones you're going to probably use most often, but there are some more. So I want to explore those, or say, what do we do when we want some different enumerables? So I really want you to get comfortable with Googling and using the Ruby docs. So we're going to explore one together, and then you're going to kind of explore on your own. This max by enumerable. Okay, so what I would do if someone had said, like, what does this max by enumerable do? Okay, well, I'd go to my Google, do Ruby max by enumerable. Okay, I look very specifically for this website, the ruby-doc.org, for my enumerables. It's the official docs. And then I always like to change it to the version we're using, so I make sure that the method I'm using actually exists in this version of Ruby. So then we're in our class of enumerable, and here's all the enumerables we have available to us. It's a lot. Okay, so let's look at max by. And this, I just want you to get familiar with looking at some documentation. So sometimes the words don't mean too much to me until I understand what the code is doing. So I can see here that we have an array. This %W is shortcut for making an array of strings. So I have an array of strings, and I see that if I could call max by on it, and I do a do end block or curly's, a code block. See, they don't name very well here. That's okay. And then so each element, we're checking the length, and then it's going to return to me, presumably the string that has the longest length. Okay, so it returns the object in the enumerable that gives the maximum value for the given block. So whatever causes this block to evaluate to the maximum value will be the return of max by. Okay, and you don't need to memorize all this. That's why we have these documents, the documentation, so that we could refer to it. But I want you to be comfortable with it. So now if I was going to use that here to find longest name, so I want to find the name that's the longest here, we would follow the syntax as it's outlined in our documentation, and we could fill it in one of our 1, 2, 3s, right? Looking for syntax, return value, and when we would use it. So here we would do max by. We have our do end, each of these is a name. So those curlies in the documentation, that's just a shorter syntax for the do and the end, and it's a one-line syntax. And here we know we want it to return the name that is the longest, that has the most amount of characters. So we want to put something in our code block that evaluates to a number, and then max by will do all the work behind the scenes for us to say, okay, whichever element caused this to be the largest value, that is the element I will return for you. So if you do p longest name, and I am going through this a little bit quickly because then I want you to look at some documentation. So if we run this, well, I can see Charlie is the name that is the longest. Cool. So also the point I want to get across is there are so many enumerables. So usually whatever you're looking to do, if you have it a collection or an array, and you say, okay, I want to look in this array and do something with it, probably you're going to want to reach for one of these enumerables. So what I'd like to do for the last 5 minutes here is have you, depending on what your last name starts with, okay, so find whichever your last name starts with, research the 2 enumerables that are listed under your name, and do the 1, 2, 3 for it. Does that make sense when I say do the 1, 2, 3? Write out the syntax, write the return value, and write the use case. When would you use this enumerable? Okay, so go put that in a, like on a text editor. You can write it too if you want, but we'll share them. Okay, so go ahead, spend about 5 minutes researching your enumerable.